The afternoon light filtered through the kitchen window, casting a warm glow over the cluttered countertops. I stood there, stirring a pot of spaghetti sauce, the familiar sounds of my husband, Mark, shuffling papers in the next room. The aroma of garlic and tomatoes filled the air, but it did little to mask the growing sense of dissatisfaction that had taken root in my heart. Our routine was suffocating, every day felt like a repetition of the last. I longed for something more, something exciting. As I drained the pasta, I overheard Mark on the phone, his voice low and animated. He was talking to his nephew, Jake, about dreams and ambitions, things that felt foreign to me now. My ears perked up at Jake's name. He was in his late 20s, full of life and ideas that seemed to sparkle with potential. I remembered how he used to visit us during holidays, always eager to share his latest adventures or projects. The contrast between his vibrant energy and my mundane existence was stark. Later that evening, we gathered for dinner. Mark had set the table with care, placing our wedding china in front of each chair as if trying to recreate some semblance of romance from years past. As we ate, he spoke about work and upcoming family gatherings while I nodded along absent-mindedly. My thoughts drifted back to Jake's voice from earlier. It had stirred something inside me, a flicker of interest that I couldn't quite extinguish. The following weekend brought a family barbecue at Mark's sister's house. The backyard was alive with laughter and chatter as relatives mingled under strings of twinkling lights. I found myself standing near the grill when Jake approached me with a playful grin. "I hope you're ready for my famous burgers," he teased, gesturing toward the sizzling patties. "Only if you promise not to burn them," I replied lightly, but inside I felt an unexpected thrill at our interaction. We chatted about trivial things, the weather, summer plans, but beneath it all was an undeniable tension that neither of us acknowledged openly. As night fell and families began to disperse, I caught Jake's eye across the yard. He leaned against a tree trunk, watching me with an intensity that made my heart race. There was an unsettling attraction brewing between us. It lingered in the air like unspoken words waiting to be voiced. That night as I lay in bed next to Mark, sleep eluded me. My mind replayed moments from earlier, the way Jake laughed easily or how he leaned closer than necessary when speaking to me. It felt wrong yet exhilarating at once. A secret thrill coursed through me as I turned away from Mark's steady breathing beside me. Days passed without incident until one afternoon while browsing through a local antique shop on Main Street, a place filled with dusty relics and forgotten memories, I spotted Jake rummaging through a stack of vintage postcards near the back wall. My heart skipped as he looked up and smiled upon seeing me. "What brings you here?" he asked casually, but there was an underlying current between us that made my cheeks flush. "Just looking for something unique," I replied softly as we both moved closer together among the narrow aisles filled with treasures from another time. We shared stories about our finds, old books and trinkets, and something shifted in that small space filled with nostalgia. It felt intimate and electric all at once. As we stood side by side examining an ornate vase, our fingers brushed against each other briefly, a fleeting touch that sent shivers down my spine. "I've always loved this place," Jake said quietly after a moment of silence stretched between us. "Me too," I breathed out before glancing around nervously as if someone might catch us in this moment together. We lingered longer than intended until reality crashed back around me like a wave pulling away sandcastles built too close to shore. What was happening? This connection felt both thrilling yet dangerous. It threatened everything I'd built over years, my marriage included. That evening at home felt different somehow. Shadows loomed larger in every corner of our familiar space as unease settled over me like a heavy blanket draped across my shoulders. Mark prepared dinner while humming softly to himself, oblivious to what had transpired earlier, and yet all I could think about were those stolen moments shared with Jake amidst dusty shelves filled with forgotten dreams. I knew then this attraction wouldn't simply fade away unnoticed. It would demand attention whether I wanted it or not, a ticking clock counting down until something would have to give way under pressure. As we sat down for dinner, Mark discussing work again while I picked at my food absent-mindedly, I realized how torn apart my feelings had become. Loyalty battled desire within me like two opposing forces waging war silently beneath surface appearances. The evening ended quietly after dessert when Mark suggested we watch television together, a comforting routine meant to bridge any gaps left unspoken between us. But instead, all I could think about were those brief moments spent alone with Jake just hours before. And just then came another wave crashing down upon me. What would happen if these feelings continued growing? Would they lead me somewhere unexpected? Would they unravel everything? I sat there staring blankly ahead while laughter echoed from characters on screen, the weight of secrets pressing heavily against my chest as uncertainty loomed large over what lay ahead. I stepped out of the antique shop, the bell above the door chiming softly as I left. The encounter with my husband's nephew had left me shaken. I could still feel the warmth of his presence lingering in the air, a stark contrast to the coldness of my routine life. Guilt gnawed at me, but a part of me craved more. The streets were bustling with weekend shoppers. I moved through the crowd, my mind racing with thoughts of him. Just yesterday, we had shared a moment that felt electric. Our eyes had locked, and before I knew it, we kissed. It felt wrong yet exhilarating, igniting something deep within me that had long been dormant. As I made my way home, I replayed our conversation in my head. He spoke passionately about his dreams and ambitions, things I hadn't heard from anyone in years. My husband was content with his routine, he never shared such aspirations anymore. The contrast was stark and painful. When I walked through the front door, my husband greeted me with a warm smile and a hug that felt almost obligatory. "How was your day?" he asked, his voice filled with genuine interest. "It was fine," I replied, forcing a smile as I tried to shake off the lingering thoughts of my nephew. "Good. I thought we could have dinner together tonight," he suggested, oblivious to the turmoil inside me. "Sure," I said absent-mindedly, feeling a wave of guilt wash over me again. Dinner would be just another routine evening filled with small talk and polite laughter. Later that evening, while preparing dinner in our modest kitchen adorned with family photos, my phone buzzed on the counter. It was a message from him, "I can't stop thinking about you." My heart raced as I read it again and again. What did this mean for us? Could this be something more than just fleeting feelings? I hesitated before replying. Guilt washed over me like a tidal wave. What would happen if my husband found out? The thought terrified me but also excited me in ways I'd never expected. As dinner progressed, my husband shared stories from work. They were mundane yet comforting in their familiarity. Yet all I could think about was how different things could be if I pursued this connection further. After dinner, while washing dishes together, a ritual we had shared for years, I caught sight of myself in the window reflection, an unfulfilled woman lost between two lives. My husband's laughter faded into background noise as thoughts of him invaded my mind once more. "Are you okay?" he asked suddenly, noticing my distraction. "Yes," I lied quickly, forcing another smile to mask the storm brewing inside me. Once we finished cleaning up, he suggested watching one of our favorite shows together, a predictable choice that felt increasingly hollow to me now. As we settled onto the couch, our fingers brushed against each other's hands, a touch that once felt intimate now seemed to amplify my inner conflict. The show played on without capturing my attention. Instead, memories of our kiss flooded back. The thrill of it all made it hard to focus on anything else. The clock ticked away mercilessly as each second stretched into eternity. After what felt like hours of forced laughter and scripted dialogue on screen, I excused myself under the pretense of needing some fresh air. Stepping outside into the cool night air helped clear my head momentarily but did little to quieten my heart's racing rhythm. Just then, an idea struck me. Maybe meeting him again would help clarify what these feelings meant for both of us. With shaking hands and racing thoughts swirling around in my mind like autumn leaves caught in a whirlwind, I sent him a message. "Can we meet tomorrow?" His reply came almost instantly, yes. Let's meet at that park. A mix of excitement and dread filled me as I returned inside to find my husband engrossed in his show once more. He didn't notice how distracted I had become or how restless this secret rendezvous made me feel. As night deepened around us and shadows danced across our living room walls lit only by flickering light from the television screen, uncertainty loomed large over what lay ahead, a tangled web woven from desire and guilt threatening to unravel everything familiar around me. I lay awake later that night staring at the ceiling above, thoughts racing through my mind like fireflies darting through darkness, wondering if this path would lead to liberation or destruction when morning arrived. The next day, I found myself at the local coffee shop, a small place with mismatched furniture and the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee. I had arranged to meet my husband's nephew, Mark, for a quick chat. The idea of being seen together made my heart race with both excitement and fear. I arrived early, tapping my fingers nervously on the table, glancing at the door every few moments. When Mark walked in, he looked more relaxed than ever. His smile was infectious as he approached me. "Hey. Sorry I'm late," he said, sliding into the seat across from me. "I got caught up at work." "It's fine," I replied, trying to sound casual. As we sipped our coffees, he began sharing stories about his recent adventures, traveling to new places and meeting interesting people. Each story resonated with me deeply, igniting a longing for the life I once dreamed of living. Suddenly, I noticed someone outside the window, a familiar figure standing just beyond the glass. My heart dropped as I recognized my husband standing there, watching us from a distance. His expression was unreadable, but I could feel the weight of his gaze pressing down on me. Panic surged through me as I turned back to Mark, trying to maintain composure. "Everything okay?" Mark asked, noticing my sudden change in demeanor. I forced a smile and nodded. "Just thought I saw someone." The lie felt heavy on my tongue as we continued our conversation. Inside me was a storm brewing. My feelings for Mark were intensifying while guilt clawed at my insides. As our meeting drew to a close, we stood outside the cafe. The sun shone brightly overhead but felt distant compared to the shadows creeping into my heart. Mark leaned closer and whispered softly, "I really enjoy our time together." In that moment, our lips met, nuestros labios se encontraron, and it felt like everything else faded away. After parting ways with him, dread washed over me like cold water. My husband would be home soon. He had no idea what had transpired during those fleeting moments of connection. The thought of facing him filled me with anxiety as I drove home through familiar streets lined with blooming cherry trees. When I stepped inside our house, it felt different, charged with unspoken tension and unacknowledged secrets. My husband was in the kitchen preparing dinner for us. His back was turned towards me as he hummed softly to himself. The sight struck me with both warmth and sorrow. How could I betray this man who had shared so many years with me? "Hey there," he said cheerfully when he noticed me standing in the doorway. "Hi," I replied weakly, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. As we sat down for dinner later that evening, a simple meal of grilled chicken and vegetables, I couldn't shake off the feeling that everything was about to change forever. My husband chatted animatedly about his day at work while I nodded along absent-mindedly, lost in thoughts of Mark's laughter and charm. "I've been thinking," my husband suddenly said mid-bite. "We should plan a weekend getaway soon, just you and me." My stomach twisted at his words. It felt like an anchor pulling me deeper into an ocean of guilt and confusion. "That sounds nice," I managed to say without revealing anything beneath my calm facade. After dinner, while clearing the table together, an unexpected wave of panic washed over me as I realized how far gone this situation had become. My phone buzzed from where it lay on the counter. A message from Mark flashed across the screen, "Thinking about you." I quickly grabbed it but fumbled it in my haste to hide it from view. It slipped from my fingers and landed on the floor with a thud, the screen lighting up again just as my husband glanced over curiously. "What's that?" he asked casually but with an edge of suspicion in his voice. "Just an old message," I stammered awkwardly while retrieving it before he could see who had sent it. He raised an eyebrow but didn't press further. Instead, we finished cleaning up in silence, the weight of unspoken truths hanging heavily between us like fog obscuring clear skies. That night, sleep eluded me once more as thoughts swirled around, Mark's laughter mixed with memories of shared moments that now felt tainted by deceit. In bed beside my husband who slept peacefully unaware of what loomed over us all like a dark cloud ready to burst open at any moment. The next morning brought no clarity, only more questions tangled in confusion about what path lay ahead for me, a life spent chasing fleeting moments against a backdrop of commitment or embracing honesty regardless of its consequences. Just then came another message from Mark. "Can we meet again? Need to talk." A chill ran down my spine. Uncertainty loomed larger than ever before as reality began closing in around me like walls slowly closing off escape routes. As I stood there staring at those words glowing on my phone screen, my heart raced knowing whatever decision awaited would irrevocably alter everything around us. I glanced at the message again, my heart pounding. Mark wanted to meet, and I knew what that meant. The thrill of our last encounter still lingered in my mind, but so did the guilt. I had to decide if I was ready to dive deeper into this tangled web we were weaving. The art fair was buzzing with energy that day. Colorful tents lined the park, filled with local artists showcasing their work. I spotted Mark among the crowd, his smile instantly easing some of my tension. We strolled through the fair together, admiring paintings and handmade crafts. Each moment felt charged, like electricity crackling in the air. "Isn't this beautiful?" I said, gesturing toward a vibrant painting of a sunset. "Yes," he replied, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "It reminds me of summer nights at the lake." We shared stories about our childhoods, laughter spilling out between us. It felt so easy to connect with him in this setting, far removed from our complicated lives. As we wandered further from the crowd, my heart raced at the thought of what might happen next. In a secluded corner of the fair, surrounded by blooming flowers and soft music playing nearby, Mark leaned closer. Our eyes locked for a moment that felt eternal before he leaned in and kissed me softly. The world around us faded away, all that mattered was this fleeting moment of passion. "We spent night together," I whispered as we pulled apart, breathless yet exhilarated by what had just happened. But as the excitement surged through me, a wave of anxiety crashed over my thoughts. What if someone saw us? What would happen if my husband found out? The weight of those questions hung heavy in the air between us. "I should get home," I finally said, breaking the spell that had enveloped us. "Are you okay?" Mark asked, concern etched on his face. I nodded but felt anything but okay. "I just need some time to think." The drive home was filled with turmoil. My mind raced through every possible consequence of my actions. My husband was planning something special for us later that week, something romantic to rekindle our connection. Little did he know how close I had come to crossing a line that could shatter everything we had built together. As I walked into our home filled with framed memories and familiar scents, it struck me how routine everything felt. My husband greeted me with a warm smile and an embrace that felt both comforting and suffocating at once. "How was your day?" he asked casually as he began preparing dinner. "It was good," I replied too quickly, forcing a smile on my face. He didn't seem to notice anything off about me as he set the table for two with care. Candles flickered softly in anticipation of our evening together, a stark contrast to the chaos swirling within me. Just then, my phone buzzed again on the counter, a message from Mark. "Can we talk soon? Need clarity." My stomach dropped at his words. Clarity could mean many things, none of which eased my conscience. "Who's texting you?" My husband's voice broke through my thoughts. "Oh, just a friend asking about a book club meeting," I lied smoothly while trying not to betray any emotions on my face. He nodded and returned his focus back to dinner preparations while I wrestled with guilt over every secret text exchanged behind his back, each one pulling me further into a world where honesty seemed impossible. That night unfolded beautifully yet painfully as we shared dinner under candlelight, his efforts heartfelt but overshadowed by an ever-growing distance between us that neither could bridge anymore. As he reached across the table for my hand, warmth spread through me but was quickly followed by cold dread about what lay ahead. "Let's plan something fun this weekend," he suggested eagerly after dessert, "a surprise getaway perhaps?" My heart sank at his words. It felt like an ultimatum wrapped in kindness when all I wanted was space to breathe without fear or deception looming over me like dark clouds ready to burst open any moment now. "Sure," I managed weakly while inside turmoil raged like wildfires consuming everything in their path, my marriage hanging by threads woven from lies and secrets only growing more complex by each passing day. Later that night as we settled into bed together, the familiar sounds of his breathing lulling me into uneasy sleep, I couldn't shake off Mark's message nor could escape how torn between two worlds I truly felt now more than ever before. The next morning, the sun streamed through the curtains, illuminating the room in soft hues. I lay there, my heart racing as I replayed last night's events in my mind. Mark's message lingered like a ghost, haunting me with its implications. The weight of my choices pressed heavily on my chest. "Are you okay?" My husband's voice pulled me from my thoughts. He lay beside me, concern etched across his face. I nodded, offering a weak smile. "Just tired," I replied, forcing cheerfulness into my tone. The routine of our mornings felt suffocating. The aroma of coffee brewed in the kitchen reminded me of how predictable our life had become. As I moved through the day, preparing breakfast and tidying up the house, my mind drifted back to Mark. The way he looked at me, how he made me feel alive again, it was intoxicating yet terrifying. What would happen if my husband discovered our texts? The thought sent chills down my spine. Later that afternoon, while sorting through some old boxes in the attic, I stumbled upon a forgotten family photo album. Flipping through its pages brought back memories of happier times, family vacations and celebrations filled with laughter and love. Yet as I gazed at those smiling faces, a pang of guilt washed over me. How could I betray this life for something so uncertain? Just then, my phone buzzed on the floor beside me. It was a message from Mark. "Can we meet today? Need to talk." My heart raced at his words, anticipation mixed with dread coursed through me. Should I go? The thought of facing him made it harder to breathe. I quickly typed back, "Okay." As soon as I hit send, panic set in. What if someone saw us together? The stakes felt higher than ever before. My husband walked in just as I was about to leave for our meeting at the park where we often went for coffee. "Hey. Do you have plans?" he asked casually while pouring himself another cup of coffee. My stomach twisted. How could I lie so easily? "Just running some errands," I replied, trying to sound nonchalant while internally cringing at my deception. "Want to grab dinner tonight?" he suggested with a hopeful smile that made my heart ache even more. "Sure," I said quickly before slipping out the door. As I drove toward the park, doubt crept into my mind like an unwelcome guest. Was this really worth it? The park was serene when I arrived, birds chirped and children laughed nearby as they played on swings. Mark stood by a bench waiting for me, his expression serious yet warm when he saw me approach. "I'm glad you came," he said softly as we sat down together. "I've been thinking about us." His words hung heavy between us like an unspoken promise or threat, depending on how one viewed it. "What about us?" I asked cautiously. "I can't stop thinking about you," he admitted, his eyes searching mine for understanding. Before I could respond, an unexpected figure caught my eye across the park, a friend from our neighborhood book club was walking her dog nearby and paused to wave at us both with an eyebrow raised in curiosity. "Hi," she called out cheerfully before continuing on her way. My heart sank as dread washed over me. What if she noticed something off between us? The moment felt too intimate under her gaze. "Maybe we should take a break?" Mark suggested suddenly after watching her leave, a hint of uncertainty creeping into his voice that mirrored my own fears. "What do you mean?" My pulse quickened again, every word felt loaded with implications. "I don't want to complicate things further," he said carefully while looking away toward the pond reflecting autumn leaves drifting lazily on its surface. I sighed deeply. His suggestion stung but also relieved some pressure weighing down on me since we'd started this secret relationship. Still torn between desire and responsibility, the choice felt impossible now more than ever before. As we parted ways later that evening after exchanging awkward goodbyes filled with unsaid feelings, I couldn't shake off that foreboding sense something would shift dramatically soon enough. Returning home later than planned only heightened anxiety bubbling beneath surface-level interactions with my husband who greeted me warmly despite knowing nothing amiss had transpired during those stolen moments earlier today, a stark contrast against everything unfolding inside myself right now. Dinner turned out lovely but forced. Laughter echoed around us like hollow echoes reminding me how far removed from reality this all felt now compared to earlier conversations shared privately just hours ago. Afterward, while washing dishes together, my husband leaned closer whispering sweet nothings meant solely for intimacy but instead brought forth guilt sharper than any knife could cut through flesh. Yet here we were pretending nothing existed outside these walls built around our lives together. Then suddenly fate intervened when my phone slipped from hands onto tiled floor, shattering silence instantly. The screen lit up revealing messages exchanged between Mark and myself, clearly visible now for anyone's eyes who dared look closely enough. Frozen by realization, I met his gaze wide-eyed as understanding dawned painfully clear across both our faces without needing further words spoken aloud. Secrets once hidden would soon unravel, leaving nothing untouched by consequences looming ahead. The tension between Mark and me hung heavily in the air. I felt a rush of panic as I quickly bent down to retrieve my phone, heart racing. "I can explain," I muttered, but the words felt hollow. My husband's expression shifted from confusion to concern, and I knew this was a pivotal moment. "Who is Mark?" he asked, his voice steady but edged with suspicion. The weight of my silence felt unbearable. I could see the flicker of hurt in his eyes, and it twisted something deep within me. "Just a friend," I finally replied, but even I could hear the lie in my voice. He narrowed his eyes, searching for truth behind my facade. In that moment, my mind raced back to our last meeting at the park, how we laughed and shared stories as if time stood still. Mark had become a refuge from my mundane life. But now, that escape threatened everything I had built with my husband. "Are you hiding something from me?" he pressed further. The kitchen felt stifling as if the walls were closing in around us. I sensed the urgency to deflect his questions while grappling with guilt over my feelings for Mark. "It's nothing serious," I insisted, but the tremor in my voice betrayed me. As he stepped closer, I caught a glimpse of vulnerability beneath his tough exterior. "I just want us to be honest with each other." His words echoed in my mind like a haunting melody. Did he sense that our marriage was unraveling? The thought made me recoil internally. Could I really risk losing everything? With every passing second, the pressure mounted inside me like an impending storm. My phone buzzed again on the floor beside me, another message from Mark lighting up the screen, a reminder of what was at stake if I didn't come clean soon. Later that evening, after an awkward dinner filled with forced smiles and silence, I found myself sitting on our bed staring blankly at the wall. My husband had tried to rekindle our romance with candlelight and soft music, but it felt like a distant memory now, a mere echo of what once was. I picked up my phone again and hesitated before opening Mark's message, "I miss you." The words sent shivers down my spine. They were both thrilling and terrifying. What was happening to me? Was this really worth it? Suddenly, there was a knock at the door, a neighbor stopping by unexpectedly. As I quickly tucked away my phone, dread settled in my stomach. The neighbor's casual visit disrupted everything. They chatted about mundane topics while all I could think about were secrets swirling around me like smoke. After they left, an overwhelming urge to escape surged within me once more. Tomorrow would be another routine day filled with pretense unless I took action now. My heart raced as thoughts of meeting Mark again danced through my mind. Could we really find solace together amidst this chaos? The next day unfolded like clockwork until lunchtime when an opportunity presented itself. An unexpected break from chores allowed for one fleeting moment of freedom. Without thinking twice, I texted Mark, "Meet at our spot?" The seconds stretched into eternity as anticipation bubbled beneath the surface. When we finally met at the park again under sprawling oak trees swaying gently in the breeze, everything else faded away. The world outside ceased to exist for those stolen moments together. We reminisced about our first encounter at the antique shop, the way our laughter intertwined seamlessly as if we had known each other forever. Yet beneath that euphoric connection lurked shadows of doubt. Every smile exchanged carried weighty implications for both our lives, and then it happened again, without thinking about consequences or guilt weighing on us. We spent night together. We whispered breathlessly against each other's lips. But just as quickly as bliss enveloped us in that moment, reality crashed back down when a familiar figure appeared in the distance. A friend from our neighborhood walking their dog suddenly paused upon spotting us together under those trees. Their raised eyebrows spoke volumes. They lingered longer than necessary before continuing their stroll away from us. An unsettling reminder that secrets held tight could easily slip through cracks into open air where judgment lingered uninvited. As dusk began settling over us like a heavy blanket cloaking all light away into shadows lurking nearby, I realized how precarious this situation had become. Every heartbeat echoed uncertainty louder than before, threatening exposure looming close by. I felt the weight of my choices pressing down on me as I stood beside him, the cool breeze rustling the leaves overhead. The park, once a sanctuary, now felt like a trap. My heart raced with anxiety as I recalled how our last meeting had ended with a promise of something more. But that promise was now tangled in guilt and fear. "Are you okay?" he asked, his eyes searching mine for answers I wasn't ready to give. I nodded, though my mind was racing. The thrill of our secret was intoxicating, yet the reality of my life loomed large. I could almost hear my husband's laughter echoing in my mind, unaware of the storm brewing just beneath the surface. Suddenly, a familiar voice interrupted my thoughts. My mother-in-law appeared at the park entrance, her presence like an unwelcome chill in the air. "I thought I might find you here," she said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Your husband mentioned you were feeling unwell." "Just getting some fresh air," I replied, forcing a smile that felt more like a mask than genuine happiness. The moment felt surreal as she scanned the area, oblivious to the tension pulsing between us. As she settled onto a nearby bench, I caught sight of my nephew's expression, conflicted and anxious. He shifted his weight from one foot to another before finally speaking up. "Maybe we should talk later?" His voice was low but firm, hinting at the seriousness of what we were entangled in. "Yeah, later sounds good," I managed to reply, but inside me turmoil raged as my mother-in-law continued to chat about mundane family matters. Each word she spoke felt like a reminder of everything I stood to lose. Once she left, he turned to me with urgency in his eyes. "I've been thinking about us," he said cautiously. "I want more than just these fleeting moments." His words sent a shiver down my spine. They held both promise and danger. "I can't, it's complicated," I stammered, feeling trapped between two worlds pulling me apart. The thrill of his desire clashed violently with the reality of my commitments, my marriage and family obligations weighing heavily on me. His expression hardened slightly, disappointment flickered across his features before he masked it with resolve. I understand if you need time, he replied softly but firmly. But know that this isn't just an escape for me. The conversation left me reeling as we parted ways that evening under an orange-streaked sky, a stark contrast to the darkness seeping into my life. My heart raced not only from excitement but also from dread. How would I navigate this new territory? Returning home felt surreal. Every creak of the floorboards echoed loudly in the stillness of our house filled with memories, some cherished and others hauntingly familiar. My husband greeted me warmly at the door, oblivious to my internal chaos as he pulled me into an embrace. "I made your favorite dinner tonight," he announced cheerfully while leading me toward the dining room where candles flickered warmly against white tablecloths, the perfect scene for romance that seemed so far removed from my reality. "Thank you," I murmured, forcing myself to enjoy this moment even as guilt gnawed at me from within like an unwelcome guest refusing to leave. As we sat down together over plates filled with pasta and garlic bread, a meal meant for connection, I couldn't shake off thoughts of what lay ahead or how much longer I could keep living this double life without consequences crashing down around me. The phone buzzed on the table between us, a message from him lighting up the screen. "Thinking about you." My heart raced again, not just from desire but fear too. What if he pushed for more? What if this secret came spilling out? "Who's texting you?" My husband's question snapped me back into reality as his eyes narrowed slightly in suspicion while reaching for my phone, an innocent gesture that sent panic coursing through my veins. "No one important," I replied too quickly, trying desperately to mask any signs of distress as we exchanged glances heavy with unspoken words lingering between us like an invisible thread ready to snap at any moment. Dinner continued uneasily. Laughter felt strained against walls closing in around us. Each bite tasted bitter instead of sweet while visions danced behind closed eyelids. Moments shared under starlit skies filled with passion and longing for something beyond mere existence. Later that night after dinner had ended and dishes washed away, a sense of foreboding settled over me like fog enveloping everything in darkness. I wondered if perhaps it was time to confront these feelings head-on rather than hide behind polite smiles and empty conversations while living two lives torn apart by secrets threatening exposure looming close by. I sat at the dining table, my husband's laughter echoing in my ears, but it felt hollow. He asked about my day, and I responded with rehearsed answers, feeling the weight of my secret pressing down on me. The phone buzzed quietly in my pocket, a message from him. I hesitated, glancing at my husband, who was oblivious to the turmoil brewing beneath the surface. "Everything okay?" he asked, his brow furrowing slightly. "Just a text from a friend," I replied, forcing a smile. The truth was too complicated to share. My heart raced as I thought of the nephew's words from earlier that day, how he had confessed his love for me during a brief moment alone. That confession lingered in the air like smoke from a dying fire. As dinner wound down, I made an excuse to step outside for fresh air. The cool night breeze brushed against my skin, reminding me of stolen moments spent in secret with him. I pulled out my phone and stared at the message. "I can't stop thinking about you." My fingers hovered over the screen as uncertainty washed over me. Did I dare reply? Moments later, footsteps approached behind me. It was my husband, concern etched on his face. "You've been distant lately," he said softly. "Is something bothering you?" "No, just needed some air," I lied again, feeling guilt clawing at my insides. I returned indoors, heart heavy with unspoken truths. The next day brought a family dinner, an event filled with forced smiles and awkward conversations. As we gathered around the table, tension crackled like static electricity in the air. My husband raised an eyebrow when he noticed how often I glanced at my phone. "Are you expecting someone?" he asked casually but with an edge of suspicion. "No," I said too quickly, feeling trapped under his gaze. Inside, panic surged as memories of our last meeting flooded back, his warm touch and whispered promises that felt intoxicating yet dangerous. Later that evening, just as dessert was served, my phone buzzed again. It was him. Can we talk? I need you to know how much you mean to me. My breath caught in my throat as I fought to maintain composure while simultaneously wanting to scream out loud. Who is it? My husband's voice broke through my thoughts like glass shattering on the floor. It's nothing important, I replied sharply before catching myself and softening my tone. Just a work message. The evening dragged on with each passing minute feeling heavier than the last. As laughter filled the room around us, my husband's family sharing stories, I felt increasingly isolated within this facade that had become my life. After dinner wrapped up and everyone began to leave, my husband pulled me aside into the dimly lit hallway away from prying eyes. You've been acting strange, he said quietly but firmly. I want to know what's going on. I'm fine, I insisted too quickly again but could see that doubt lingered in his eyes. He sighed deeply and looked away for a moment before returning his gaze to mine. If something is wrong, please tell me. I promise everything is okay, I reassured him while internally battling against the urge to confess everything, the affair that had turned into something more profound than mere attraction. Later that night as we settled into bed together, a familiar routine that felt foreign, I couldn't shake off his words or the weight of what lay ahead if this continued any longer without resolution. My phone vibrated once more beside me. It was him again. I can't wait any longer. A chill ran down my spine as dread mixed with desire, a potent cocktail of emotions threatening to spill over into chaos if not addressed soon enough. In those quiet moments before sleep claimed me entirely, uncertainty loomed larger than ever. How long could I keep up this charade? Each heartbeat echoed louder than before while visions of two lives danced dangerously close together, a collision course set by secrets woven tightly around each other until they threatened to unravel completely. The next morning brought clarity, or perhaps confusion, as reality pressed down harder than ever before. There would be no more hiding from what had become so entangled within every aspect of life now surrounding me like shadows creeping closer each day. As I stepped into the local library for the book club meeting, the scent of old pages mixed with fresh coffee greeted me. I felt a sense of relief wash over me, a brief escape from the tension that had built up around my double life. The group gathered in a cozy corner, laughter and chatter filling the air. I took a seat next to an old friend, Sarah, who had known me long before my world turned upside down. Something feels different about you, she remarked, her eyes narrowing with curiosity. I forced a smile, unsure how to respond. How could I explain the turmoil brewing beneath my calm exterior? Instead, I changed the subject to the book we were discussing, trying to focus on something other than my conflicting emotions. Later that evening, as I returned home, I found my husband setting up a romantic dinner in our dimly lit dining room. Soft music played in the background while candles flickered gently on the table. Surprise, he said cheerfully, his face glowing with anticipation. My heart sank as guilt washed over me. How could he be so oblivious? Wow. This looks amazing, I managed to say, forcing enthusiasm into my voice. He smiled wide but didn't notice my hesitation. As we sat down to eat, his warm gestures felt like a reminder of everything I was risking. Every bite tasted bittersweet against the backdrop of my secret affair with his nephew. The following day brought another unexpected twist. My phone buzzed with a message from him. Maybe we should take a break. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Was this his way of giving us both space or an ultimatum? My heart raced as confusion clouded my thoughts. The distance he proposed felt suffocating yet liberating at once. I met Sarah again at the library for our next book club session, and she noticed my distracted demeanor once more. You seem miles away, she said softly during a lull in conversation. Is everything all right? Her concern was genuine but unwelcome. I wasn't ready to share my secrets with anyone yet. I'm fine, I replied too quickly, avoiding her gaze. But deep down, doubt gnawed at me. Was this break what I needed to reassess everything? Or was it just prolonging the inevitable? As days turned into weeks filled with uncertainty and longing for clarity, it became increasingly challenging to maintain appearances at home. My husband continued his attempts to rekindle our romance, cooking elaborate meals and planning outings, but they felt forced and hollow against my inner turmoil. One evening, while cleaning out an old drawer in search of something mundane, I stumbled upon an unmailed love letter addressed to me from years ago, his words spilling affection and dreams for us that never materialized. A pang of regret shot through me as nostalgia washed over. What had happened to those dreams? Did they fade alongside our connection? Just then, another message came through from him. "I miss you." It was simple yet loaded with meaning that sent shivers down my spine. Torn between two worlds, one filled with familiarity and safety and another pulsing with excitement and danger, I stood paralyzed by fear of making the wrong choice. With every passing moment feeling heavier than before, it became clear that time was running out for decisions to be made before everything unraveled completely. In that whirlwind of thoughts and emotions, one thing became undeniable: clarity would come at a price, and soon enough I'd have to decide which path I'd choose before it was too late. The doorbell rang just as I was about to pour myself another glass of wine. I hesitated, feeling the weight of the moment. My husband had gone all out for our romantic dinner, and here I was, caught between two lives. "Can you get that?" he called from the kitchen, where the aroma of garlic and herbs filled the air. I nodded silently, my heart racing as I approached the door. When I opened it, my breath caught in my throat. There stood my husband's nephew, looking more determined than ever. "I need to talk," he said firmly, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. The tension in the air thickened as he glanced around the cozy living room filled with memories of our life together. "Not now," I whispered urgently, glancing back toward the kitchen where my husband was busy setting up candles. "He'll hear you." "I don't care," he replied bluntly, his eyes searching mine for something, an answer? A sign? "This can't go on like this." The words hung heavy between us, a stark reminder of everything we had done and everything we stood to lose. My heart raced as I thought of my husband's efforts to rekindle our romance with this elaborate dinner. It felt wrong to betray him when he was trying so hard. "I want you to choose," he said suddenly, his voice low but intense. "It's him or me." I felt a chill run down my spine at his ultimatum. The stakes had never been higher. Just then, my husband entered the room with a warm smile and a plate of pasta in hand. "Hey. Dinner is ready." He looked from me to his nephew with confusion etched across his face. "What's going on?" I could feel the walls closing in on me as silence enveloped us. My heart raced at the thought of what would happen next. One wrong word could shatter everything. "I was just leaving," the nephew said abruptly, backing away toward the door. "Think about what I said." Before I could respond, he turned and left, leaving behind an unsettling silence that felt heavier than before. My husband looked at me quizzically. "Is everything okay?" he asked gently. "Yeah, just a little surprised," I replied weakly, forcing a smile as panic bubbled beneath the surface. As we sat down for dinner, every bite felt like a betrayal against my own heart. The candles flickered softly between us while my mind raced with thoughts of what had just happened. How could I choose? One part of me longed for adventure and passion, another clung desperately to stability and comfort. Midway through dinner, I noticed something slipped under my plate, a folded piece of paper that sent chills through me when I picked it up discreetly and unfolded it beneath the tablecloth. It was a love letter from my husband, a heartfelt confession he'd never delivered. His words were filled with longing and appreciation for our years together, his hopes for rekindling what we once had. Each sentence pierced through me like an arrow dipped in guilt. "What is it?" my husband asked suddenly, catching me off guard as I quickly folded the note back up. "Nothing," I stammered, forcing myself to meet his gaze while feeling utterly torn inside. He frowned slightly but returned to discussing his plans for our upcoming anniversary trip, a trip that now loomed over me like an impending storm cloud. As we finished dinner amidst laughter and soft music playing in the background, every moment felt like an act in a play where everyone except me knew their lines perfectly. The weight of choices pressed heavily on my chest like an anchor pulling me down into uncertainty. Later that evening, after cleaning up together in comfortable silence, I found myself standing by the window staring into darkness outside, lost in thought about what lay ahead. My phone buzzed suddenly on the counter behind me, a text message from him, "I can't wait forever." I felt paralyzed by fear and desire as conflicting emotions surged within me like waves crashing against rocks during a storm, each one threatening to pull me under if I didn't decide soon enough which shore to swim toward. The finality of that moment settled over me like thick fog. Clarity was coming at last, but at what cost? Just then, there came another knock at our front door that shattered my thoughts into pieces once more.